So, very good evening to all the participants out here. We have with us Mr. Surya Prakash Mahapatra, who is the Global Head Talent Transformation at Wipro Digital Operations and Platforms. Mr. Mahapatra has got 23 years of experience in various leadership roles in several leading IT and ITES organizations like HP, Microland, Ring, Computer Garage, and few other organizations. Mr. Mahapatra has extensive experience in setting up and running learning and development functions for organizations in India and international locations. He has set up the global training functions for Wipro BPS, which spanned across 10 locations in Brazil, Mexico, Romania, Poland, China, and India. He is a VUCA expert and he normally delivers training sessions to senior leaders on topics like change management, leadership, in a VUCA world, learning agility, impactful public speaking, to state a few. So we are really honored to have Mr. Mahapatra with us to take a session on spirituality in leadership, which is very much essential in a crisis situation that we are going through. So we would like to hand over the session to Mr. Mahapatra so that he can take it forward and give us an enlightening uh, introduction and an introspection on this topic. Mr. Mahapatra, over to you.
Thank you, Pragya. Thank you for your kind words about me. And let me, at the outset, thank both you and Sauvik for inviting me to this platform where I have an opportunity to interact with um, business leaders, corporate leaders, intellectuals who bring an immense amount of wisdom and knowledge. Personally, I think it's a great privilege for me to be part of this forum. And today, interestingly, we have a topic that we are going to engage in a dialogue. And this topic is spirituality in leadership. Some of you might be thinking, that this guy who is from a business organization, who is supposedly a business leader, what is he, what he has to do with spirituality? How come he is going to talk about spirituality? Typically, we know business leaders talk about strategy, they talk about transformation, they talk about digital, they talk about agility, they talk about various VUCA and so on. So business leader talking about spirituality. The question is, does it really go well with somebody who comes from business background to talk about spirituality? So I am here to talk about some of my life experiences. I'm not here to give a sermon. I'm not here to give a lecture. I'm not here to share any intellectual wisdom. I'm here to talk about experiences. I'm here to talk about the my life journey, and then what has been my learning about spirituality and how this can impact leadership. How can this impact our life? So I would request Sauvik, if you can bring up the slide, and then we'll get going with that. So as we talk about this topic, spirituality in leadership, and as we move on to the next slide, Sauvik, I would like to acknowledge at the beginning that all my spiritual journey and my spiritual experience, my spiritual learning has been greatly inspired by my spiritual guide, Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. So whatever I'm going to share with you today, you might see, you might definitely, I would say that, it has been influenced by the thoughts and the philosophy and the ideology of my spiritual guide, who has been instrumental in shaping my spiritual journey. So, when we talk about spirituality, ladies and gentlemen, generally, perception is spirituality is all about some rituals. It's about some customs. It's about some religious practices, some some rites that we need to perform. So, my dear friends, is that spirituality? There are others who believe spirituality is about some mystic power. It's about some supernatural, some superhuman power. It's about some power which can really um, bring some magic. Is that spirituality? Well, probably spirituality is not as complex as any of that. Spirituality is simple. Spirituality is about life. If we, the root of the word spirituality, which is spirit, it means existence. It means the soul. It means consciousness. So, my dear friends, my dear ladies and gentlemen, the leaders, intellectuals in this forum, every human being is spiritual because every human being has consciousness. Every human being is conscious. Every human being is aware. Every human being is awake. So all of us are spiritual. Every human being is spiritual. Every individual is spiritual. So if everybody is spiritual, so essentially every leader is also spiritual. So when we talk about leadership and spirituality, we really cannot distinguish between leaders who are spiritual and the leaders who are not spiritual. Because I very strongly believe that every leader, every human being is spiritual because everybody has consciousness. But what's the difference then? The difference is there is a saying that each one of us has two dogs inside us. One dog is the good, nice, kind dog. Other one is the evil dog. So we have the both. We have the good and the evil within us. It's sometimes which is the evil dog is howling so loud that the nice, kind, compassionate dog inside us does not get the attention. It is not able to draw the attention because the unkind, the evil dog is howling louder than the kinder one. We need to awaken the kind, compassionate dog in ourselves. And that's something which is going to make the difference. So as we move on, to the next slide, uh, my dear friends, the spiritual world and the material world are inseparable. We cannot distinguish between the two. We cannot say that spiritual guides need to live in ashrams. They need to live in forests and jungles. They need to live in Himalayas. And the material leaders need to live in this material world. No, that's not correct. Because the spiritual world and the material world are inseparable. They are not two different entities. They're not separate from each other. They're only different stages of the same continuum. They are the same. It's like the water and ice, different forms of the same. Spirit and matter are the same. Matter is the evolved form of spirit, and spirit is the cause behind the matter. It is the cause behind each material embodiment. Matter viewed from spiritual standpoint is a spirit in gross form. And when we look at spirit from a material standpoint, it's nothing but fine matter. That's the difference between the gross and the fine. So because of this continuity of matter and spirit, the spiritual world and the material world as two distinct entities are not true. These are two different stages of the same continuum, as I said. One is the cause behind the other. The fine lies behind the gross, and behind the fine, we have the finer, and behind that is the finest in succession. Hence, the spiritual world is a world of cause from which the world of matter comes into being. So spirit is the cause behind the material embodiment. It's the cause. So the moment we understand the cause, the spiritual realization begins. So spiritual realization as an achievement is essential in every human life, irrespective of caste, creed, and community, irrespective of walks of life. Spiritual realization is absolutely important and essential in every human life. Spiritual realization and material sustenance are equally indispensable in man's life and growth. So it's not about one at the cost of the other. It's both which are essential because one is the embodiment of the other. And I think there is a very famous spiritual guide who said, "Man shall not live by the bread alone, not that he must deny bread." So it's absolutely inseparable. As without material sustenance, life fails to survive. Similarly, without spiritual pursuit, a human being stumbles in its progress towards becoming. Because spiritual realization provides man with a clue and mechanism of how to maintain spirit in proper order. It nurtures and nourishes our existence, our very existence itself, making us aware of the presence of the supreme consciousness latent in our own self. So that supreme consciousness is latent in everybody. That's why everybody is spiritual. This consciousness is the only food that a spirit or solar existence is sustained by. Like the body is sustained by food, our spirit or soul or existence is sustained by this consciousness. And to keep this centripetal force and tension of life stable within the interactions of our environments, push and pressure of spiritual pursuit, these two are absolutely inseparable. So one can lead a saintly life, a spiritual life.
Absolutely brilliant, Vijay. You made it. You made it.
For tax revenue, actually, it is a constant worry on your side, and it is really a fact. But sir, now during this COVID relief, the
So, is it your
consumption is
hobby, dear?
So, gentlemen,
Hobby should be a hobby, sir.
can we go with the flow and then keep the question and answer towards the end? Can I
Gino,
have your permission for
Gino,
that?
it seems to be your passion also. The way you are drumming, it seems to be your passion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But if you give your permission, then I will go with the. I will continue with my narrative, and then we
Can
will
you
have
hear
a
me?
deliberation. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, Genie, over to you. Your words.
Okay, can we continue then? All right. So if I have a permission, then I will go on. So as you move on to the next slide, so this is what my spiritual guide says. Yes, the ideas and activities that lead man towards the cause as spiritualism. So those ideas, those thoughts, those concepts, those beliefs, those actions that take man towards the cause of spirit, cause of everything, that is spiritualism. In the business world, we talk about cause so often. We talk about root cause analysis. We say understanding the cause is absolutely important before we act on the effect. If you can address the cause, that will take care of the effect. But in the real world, in our personal and professional life, in the business world, we deal with the effect so much. We look at the symptom and we do not look at the root cause. So when we have a headache, we take pills, but that's only dealing with the symptom. We really do not look at what is the cause of my headache. Is it lack of sleep? Is it lack of irregular eating habits? Is it something else which has caused that pain in me? How do I eradicate the cause? How do I address the cause? If I can do that, any action, any idea, any activity that leads us towards the cause, and not spirituality. So as we move on, so this is very, very important. So when we talk about today's world, when we talk about our life today, when we talk about the times that we're living today, the unprecedented times, the COVID-19 impact, the world, the entire mankind has been locked down. Governments have really trying their best to come to grip on the situation. Organizations shutting down, businesses are closing down. Medical researchers, scientists are trying to find the vaccine. But it's all about dealing with the symptom. It's all about dealing with the effect. But if we drive our attention to the cause of the problem, why this COVID-19 came into existence, what drove this, what irregularities in our lifestyle, in our eating habits, our greed, our passion, our complexes, our craving for more money and wealth, all that has led to this crisis called novel coronavirus. Today we are in a situation, of course we'll have to deal with the effect. Of course we'll have to attack this virus. Of course we'll have to eliminate it. But that will not guarantee that we'll be able to eliminate this virus. That will not guarantee that it will not resurface again. That will not guarantee that one more pandemic or epidemic will not come up again. So it's the cause, my friends, that we need to address. And that's what spirituality is all about. When we understand the cause, we understand the root cause, we understand that we need to regulate our lives, we understand that we need to become disciplined, we understand that we need to bring in more sanity, we understand that we need to take actions. So that's what spirituality is all about in essence. Now what I will do in the next few minutes, I will try to quickly go through some of the spiritual some of the principles of the spiritual practice that have kind of stitched together, not my own creation, these are my learnings, my spiritual journey. And I would like to take you through about 5 or 6 fundamental principles of spiritual practice, and then we will go on from there. So I'm sitting in Bangalore. There it is right now. All of a sudden, it started pouring. It's raining black, really raining very, very hard. I want to make sure that there is no interruption in the network, internet connectivity, and you're able to hear me very well. If any one of you can confirm that.
Yes, it's audible for us.
Yeah, you're completely audible. No
Wonderful.
problem at all. It's going absolutely fine out here.
All right. Okay. So we'll move on. The first principle that I'm going to talk about is a principle which is spirituality in leadership drives a larger purpose in life. Today, organizations have purpose. Businesses have purpose. If you ask business leaders about their purpose, they will fail to describe what is the purpose in life. Many of them can say, I think any business leader from Google, if you ask what is the purpose of Google, they can tell you that Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Fantastic, fabulous mission that this great organization has. But if you ask the leaders in business organizations, in politics, social leaders, if you ask them what's the purpose of your life, they will stumble. They will become hesitant. They will be tentative in their response. They will not be able to give a meaningful answer because many of us don't have a purpose in life. Because many of us don't ask these questions to ourselves: who I am, why I have come to this universe, what is the mission of my life, what is the purpose of my life. That's fundamentally is a gap, is a void that every leader has today. Spirituality can come in and bridge that gap. Spirituality in leadership can drive a larger purpose in life. It helps us understand, determine what the purpose of life is all about. Today, education has failed to explain what is the purpose of life. Today, science has failed to explain what is the purpose of life. Science has explained the human anatomy. Science has failed to explain why the human being exists. What is the purpose? Science, education, literature, everyone has failed to explain to us what is the larger purpose of life. We need to go back and find answer with spirituality. We'll move on to the next purpose, next principle. Every human being is a living universe. That's the second fundamental principle of spiritual practice. Everybody who practices spirituality must look at every other human being as a living universe. You cannot look at everybody else as another creation, another being. We'll have to look at every human being as a living universe. There was a yogi who was walking around in the forests at the foothills of the Himalayas. And while walking through the forest, all of a sudden, he came across a great banyan tree, a great, gigantic, huge banyan tree. It was really, really large. And as he was wondering and marveling at the size of this banyan tree, he stumbled upon. He felt there is something. He has stepped on something. He took his foot out and he saw there is a small, tiny seed of the banyan tree which has fallen down on the ground. He looked at the seed, looked at it for a moment, and he went into a deep contemplation. He said, this great, gigantic banyan tree has been created from this tiny, little, small seed. Such a small seed. Can this lead to such a gigantic banyan tree? That was so profound a realization that Yogi had in the foothills of Himalayas, right in the midst of the dense forest. That was a profound realization that in that small little seed, latent is a gigantic, great, large banyan tree. Similarly, every human being is a potent universe. Every human being has all the characteristics of a living universe. We cannot negate, we cannot undermine, we cannot underestimate any human being. But my dear friends, as leaders in our societies, as political leaders, as leaders of administration, as social leaders, as corporate leaders, and leaders in business, we ignore these human beings every day. We ignore human beings as bodies. We ignore them as friends. We deal with them as we deal with any other transaction. We do not deal with human beings as a living universe. But that is what spirituality tells us, that in every little seed, in every small seed, there is a gigantic banyan tree. In every human being, there is a potential living universe who can change this world, who can make tremendous impact on our lives in society. We cannot ignore the potential of any human being for that matter, irrespective of the caste, creed, community, education, background, culture, anything for that. As we move on, there is another very fundamental principle about leadership. This principle says leadership is not about using people, it is about inspiring people. My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, how often leaders do this in their real life? In organizations, in societies, in businesses, in corporations, in countries, leaders use people that do not inspire people. That's a sad state of affairs. The spirituality tells us leadership is about inspiring people. It's not about easing people. Leadership is about being compassionate to people. It's not about using people. There was in the northern part of a country in Uttar Pradesh, in the North India, there is a very famous festival called Ram Leela. In the Ram Leela festival, in some villages and towns go on for days together. And in one such village, the Ram Leela festival was going on for several days. There was a farmer in that village who used to go to his field every day in the morning, come back late evening, after slogging for many, many hours in the field. And when he used to come back home, his small young boy, who is about 4 or 5 years old, used to tell him, "Dad, Papa, take me to the Ram Leela festival." The farmer was busy, he had no time. But the son wanted him to take him to the Ram Leela festival. One day, the father was actually a bit fed up, and he said, "Today I have to take my child to the festival. He is not going to leave me in peace if I don't take him there." So, friends, he took his child to the Ram Leela festival the next day. That was an exciting place. There were so many things going on. There were swings, there were sweet stalls, there were games. There were just so many events that were going on in the Ram Leela festival. And the father was really enjoying the moment. After a few minutes, the son said, "Papa, let's go back home." The dad said, "Why? We just came. We just came about a few minutes ago." The son said, "No, Papa, take me back. I don't want to be here. I want to go back home, Papa." The father was a little irritated because he was enjoying the Mela. And he said, "Son, why do you want to go back? Hang on for some more time." But the child was relentless. He was not giving up. He started crying. He said, "Papa, Papa, please take me back home." The father looked at the child, came down on his knees because the child is a small one, boy of very small height. The father came down on his knees, looked into the eyes of his son, asked him, "Beta, why do you want to go back home? This is such a beautiful, exciting place. Why can't we stay here for some more time?" When the father was saying these words to his son, his eyes got attention of something else. As he looked around, he could see only the legs of people, just the legs, nothing else. He understood what is the problem. He stood up, lifted his son, put his son on his shoulders, started walking inside the Mela. The son started clapping his hands. He was extremely delighted and happy. He said, "Papa, Papa, Papa, I don't want to go back home. I want to be in this Mela. I want to be here." What a powerful story, ladies and gentlemen. Leadership, what a powerful leadership story. The father went down to the level of the son, understood his problem, and he lifted him, elevated him, moved him up, put him on his shoulders, and his son could see the world the way he was able to see. His son could see the Mela the way the father was able to see. The beauty, the excitement, the drama, the magic, all that was going on in the Mela, the son and the father could see it equally well. It's about leadership. Leadership is about going down to the level of people, lifting them, and helping them see the world the way you are able to see. And great leaders do that. Great leaders who are ingrained with the thoughts of spirituality, who are deep into the fundamentals of spirituality. They do that over and over and over again. They do that every day. They elevate people. They go down to the level of the people and then lift them up. That's what spirituality and leadership is all about. As we move on, there is a myth that we are going to bust today. And this is something that we use in the business world every day. We say survival of the fittest. We have to have the highest market share. We have to become the market leader in the industry, in our segment. We have to beat our competition. We have to be the fittest because only then we can survive. But this is a myth. This is absolutely myth. This is not the reality. Survival of the fittest is a myth. I'm going to share with you another story. There was a spiritual guide, a spiritual guru who had many devotees. And one day, some of his devotees wanted to go to different parts of Eastern India and wanted to preach about the messages, the ideology, the message of brotherhood that was propagated by their Guruji, their spiritual guide. They took permission from the Guruji, from their spiritual guide, and they said, Guruji, we will take your mission to this world and your message of brotherhood will reach far and wide. Guruji gave them permission, but at the same time, he told them there was a man who was standing there wearing dirty clothes, somebody who came from a nearby village, and probably a small petty singer who used to earn a few rupees every week by surrendering his voice roaming around in villages and towns. He had come to the ashram, and Guruji said, take this young man. These devotees who are sophisticated, cultured, educated, looked at this young man who was looking filthy and dirty and ugly. They did not want to take him. But Guruji has instructed them to take this young man with them. How can they say no to their Guruji? They told Thakur, you want us to take him with us? Thakur said, yes, I want you to take him along with you. The troop then set about on the mission. They went to villages, they went to towns, they went to different places, talked about the message of the Guruji, the message of brotherhood, the message of love, the message of compassion to people. And after about a day or two, they realized that this young man who was with them, not only very dirty and ugly, has unhygienic habits, is also a thief because he was pickpocketing some of them and lifting small items here and there. They immediately threw him out of the troop. They said, get lost, get out of our company. And they threw him out of their group and they moved on, went to many more villages for several days and weeks, came back after about a couple of months. They were excited, happy. They were eager to meet the Guruji and were very eager to share their experiences with their Guruji. Guruji came, sat before them, and they were about to share their experiences. Guruji, as humble, as reticent the Guruji was, he was quiet, he was not paying attention to them. But they were eager to share their experiences. After some time, the Guruji was looking completely disinterested in listening to their experiences, asked them, where is Birju? Birju was the young man, the ugly, dirty young man they had thrown him out of the troop. One of them said, Guruji, we have thrown him out. Guruji's face turned grim. His face was pale in sadness. Guruji said, but why? The devotees said, we threw him out because he was a petty thief. He was not fit to be with us. Guruji said, you are going from village to village, from one district to another district, one town to another town, talking about brotherhood, love, compassion. You could not adjust one young man with you, and you are talking about brotherhood. You are talking about love. You are talking about compassion. All my teachings are meaningless. The devotees were also feeling disturbed. They knew that the Guruji is very upset. One of them told the Guruji with little bit of courage, he said, Guruji, survival of the fittest. That man was not fit enough to survive with us. Guruji became grave. He became very sad. He looked at them and said, survival of the fittest? I do not believe in that. First, make the unfit fit. Then only you will survive. First, make the incompetent competent. Then only you will survive. First, make the inefficient efficient. Then only you will survive. Otherwise, there is going to be a big question mark on your survival itself. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the reality of our life. Today, we are in a race to be the fit of the fittest at the cost of everybody else. And if you believe that we are the fittest, if we are the best, if we are the mightiest, if we are the most influential and powerful, can we still survive? The best, mightiest country in this world, United States of America, is struggling to survive today. Lakhs of people are under the clutches of COVID-19. Thousands of people have perished, have died. The might, the power, the money, the advancement in medical science have not helped them survive. Because if your neighbor doesn't survive, if your fellow countryman doesn't survive, if another province in your country doesn't survive, if your neighbor in the society doesn't survive, you being the fittest cannot survive. Because their diseases will infect you, their ignorance will infect you, their problems will challenge you. You have to make them fit, make everybody around you competent, help and enable everybody else, then only you can enable yourself. That's the mantra of spirituality. That's what the essence of spirituality is all about. Make the unfit fit, then only you can survive. So spirituality is all about making sure that we help others survive. And that's the essence when we carry our neighborhood with us, when we carry our society with us, when as leaders, when we carry our people with us in the organization. Not only we survive, not only does the organization survive, the people survive. And that becomes a collective win for everybody. But in today's world, it's a race to be the best at the cost of everybody else. That's fundamentally against the principle of religion. That's why my spiritual guide is Thakur Nukul Chandra says, "Onne bachaye nije thake, dharmo bale janes take." When I protect my existence and protect the existence of others at the same time, then I am following the principle of spirituality. As we move on to the next slide, talks about leaders' ability to deal with ambiguities, complexities, and contradictions. My dear friends, today our life is all about contradictions. There is no happiness in the midst of plenty. There is a vacuum in the midst of plenty. There is an absence in the absence of love and compassion in the midst of friends and relatives. There is a paucity in the midst of plenty. We live in times of contradictions. We live in times of ambiguities. We live in times of complexities. As Pragya was saying at the beginning, we live in a VUCA world which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But leadership is all about dealing with that. Leadership is all about dealing with these contradictions. Leadership is all about finding that balance. In the midst of all ambiguities and complexities, finding that balance. That's what spirituality is all about. When the famous scientist of India, Dr. P.K. Parija, went to meet his spiritual guide and went and had a conversation with him. When the conversation was going on, his guru asked him, Dr. Parija, you are a famous scientist. Tell me, have you ever gone to the market and bought vegetables? Dr. Parija said, he thought, what a silly question this is. He said, yes, I have gone to the market in my childhood. My mom used to send me many times to the market to buy vegetables. The Guruji asked him, when you go to the market, how do you know that you have got the right weight? How do you know that the shopkeeper has not cheated you? Dr. Parisa said, it's very simple. The shopkeeper uses a balancing scale. On one side, he puts the weight. On the other side, he puts the vegetables. And in the balancing scale, in the middle, there are two needles. There is a big needle and there is a small needle on top of it. When the big needle aligns with the small needle, I know that both sides are balancing. The weight and the weight of the weight and the vegetables weight are now matching. This is how the balancing scale helps me find out whether the shopkeeper has given me the right weight or not. So life is all about balancing. It's all about balancing. That balancing requires alignment. The big needle has to align with the small needle. That alignment is absolutely essential. Once that alignment happens, once that spiritual alignment happens, then balance becomes part of our life. So as we move on, I would like to show you a graphical representation. Look at this picture, and this is a great example. A circle is a great example of balance. That balance, the root cause, the fundamental, the essence of that balance is the center, is the point at the center. If that center does not exist, the circle does not exist. If you look at the slide, the next slide, you can see if the center does not exist, the circle does not exist. If you try to draw a circle without a center, you will end up drawing a zigzag line. A zigzag line, asymmetric, absolutely not in harmony, not in order, not in balance. But if you have that center in your life, then you have balance. So that center is the spiritual alignment. That brings balance in life. No matter how successful we are, no matter how powerful we are, no matter how educated we are, no matter how influential we are, if you don't have that center, you don't have that spiritual alignment, our life will become a zigzag life. But the danger is we will lead many other lives to a zigzag life, to a zigzag line. Not only we will lose the balance in our life, we'll also lead many other people to imbalance in their lives because with losing our self-awareness, with losing our spiritual alignment, we have lost connect with our purpose. connect with the objective of life. And then when we are directionless, no matter how educated we are, if we lack that center, that central spiritual alignment, our life will fall flat. We have seen innumerable number of examples, highly educated people, highly influential, highly knowledgeable people, but their lives have become scattered. Their lives have become have gone to dogs. Their lives have gone to a tailspin in spite of having everything in life. They just lacked one single small little thing. That's the center in their life. As we move on, this very fundamentally tells us if our life is not concentric, it would become eccentric. If our life does not have a center, then our life will become eccentric, directionless. It'll go haywire. It'll get fragmented. Our personal life, our family life, our social life, our married life, everything will get fragmented. But if you're concentric, everything else will fall in place like that circle with that small little center. It has a beautiful, balanced, symmetric, awesome circle that we can see and enjoy. So that's why all of us need, as we move to the next slide, all of us need that center, that love center in our life, that ideal in our life, that life teacher in our life who can guide us, who can give us the direction. Today, we believe that we can get everything without that life teacher, because Google can become a life teacher. YouTube can become a life teacher. Internet can become a life teacher. Why do we need a life teacher? But my dear friends, Internet, Google, YouTube, Yahoo search, all of them can give us information. None of them can give us wisdom. They can give us information. They can give us data. They can give us facts. They can give us loads and tons of documents, techniques, concepts, ideas. But when we have problems, when we try to find out how to have a happy conjugal relationship, that will not teach us. When we try to figure out how to have a great relationship with our parents, Google will not teach us. When we try to find out how to have the balance in my office, how do I really lead a balanced life when I can grow in my career, but have at the same time have a great relationship with my colleagues, with my manager, with my peer in the organization, that will not, this tons and tons of documents will not teach us that. We need a life teacher who can teach us how to lead our life. That's exactly what Arjuna experienced in the battlefield of Kurukshetra when he asked his charioteer Krishna to take him right middle into the battleground, and he said, take me there, I want to see who all are there in the battlefield. And when Krishna took him there on the chariot, when Arjuna looked around, he found his grandfather, his uncle, his cousin, his brother, his nephew, all of them are there in the opposite side. He looked at Krishna and said, Krishna, I'm not going to fight this battle. This is unethical. This is adharma. This is not a dharmic thing. It is not the right thing to do. My grandfather loved me so much when I was a child. My cousins had so much love for me. My uncle is such a respectable person to me. How can I kill them? How can I shoot arrows against them? How can I do that? Arjuna said, I'm not going to fight this battle. Maybe Arjuna, probably for a common man, Arjuna was right. Yes. How can you fight a battle like this? How can you kill your uncles? How can you kill your grandfather? How can you kill your nephew? How can you kill your cousin? Probably common man would say it's right, it is absolutely correct. But then Krishna had a conversation with him. And that conversation today is the Bhagavad Gita. And that conversation changed the perspective about life for Arjuna. That conversation brought about a transformation. That transformation helped Arjuna understood what he is, what is his purpose, what is his larger mission in life beyond what he is able to see, beyond what he's able to visualize, beyond what he's able to conceptualize. That conversation with Krishna made him see things